One of the things that I think people severely underestimate with regard to both the 2020 election and the 2022 election, when Republicans underperformed expectations in both of those elections, is COVID. More than 1 million Americans, hell, more than 2,000 Americans in the last 7 days have died from COVID. COVID is not gone. COVID is not through with us. You may think you're done with it, but it ain't done with us. We have so many deaths to this day in this country. And as studies have repeatedly shown, Republicans are far more likely to die from it than Democrats are, because they're less likely to be vaccinated, less likely to be taking safety precautions. More Republicans died from COVID than Democrats did, and that played a big role and does not get credit for it in Republicans not doing well in 2020 and 2022. And that brings me to another viewer question. This is from Rob Living His Best Life, who asks, given that Trump is not expanding his base and losing many, do you really think he can win? He's already lost last cycle, and even though anything is possible, what do you think, given the lack of expansion of his base? And that's what I'm talking about with the reduction of his base. Trump has a solid grip on his MAGA cult members. There's not a ton of people just voluntarily leaving. They're leaving because they're 6 feet underground, because he told them, don't worry about COVID. And other Republicans and other, media commentators and sports figures tell them, oh, it's nothing. Just take the horse dewormer. You're fine. Yeah, I think if you checked with them now, they'd probably disagree. Unfortunately, most of them aren't able to answer your questions. So yes, Trump's base has shrunk. But also, to your point, it hasn't grown at all. Not just because it's shrinking and more people are coming in. No. He's not appealing to anyone outside of his base. So that's why, honestly, I feel like all these polls that come out like, oh, it's neck and neck with Trump and Biden. I don't see it. Democrats are consistently overperforming in races where they shouldn't even be close to winning. And they're winning. That's not possible in a country where everybody says, oh, well, Democrats are doing so bad. They're not. I don't buy it. And I've talked consistently about these polls that are like, oh, look how close they are. Do you know what polls are based on? And I'm telling you this as somebody who, as a political science degree holder, took courses in political polling. Do you know where we get the information to conduct polls? From the census. Do you know when that last census was conducted? Before more than 1 million Americans died of COVID. So those numbers that significantly decreased Republicans more than they decreased Democrats are still being used. So the polling data itself that we're using to call people and pick which ones we're going to talk to, how many Republicans and how many Democrats, that data is already skewed because it's not taking into account the number of people and the political affiliations of the people who died from COVID. Do you see what I'm saying? The polls are unreliable because they're using outdated data. So yes, I think that Trump is in worse shape than he looks. I think Biden is in better shape than he looks. Because if the pollsters are looking at a county that's 55% Republican and 45% Democrat, 55% of the people they talk to for a poll, they will go to the Republicans. 45 will be Democrats. But if COVID deaths even that out to 50-50, then you've oversampled Republicans based on your outdated data. And that's why you're going to see these weird skews in polls that are not reflected when it comes time to elections, which we have repeatedly seen over the last 2 years. Trump's base is shrinking. COVID is playing a large part of that. And Trump is not attracting any new people to his coalition because he's just playing the greatest hits. So I do think, again, Trump doesn't have as much of a shot as the polls would tell us he has. I'm not saying Democrats need to rest easy, but I am saying we're in for quite a shock when we see how wrong the 2024 polls are going to be when the election comes.